Welcome to Everything Economics. We study microeconomics, macroeconomics, and every other type of economics here. Welcome back. This is part 2 of the chapter Production and Growth. In the last part, we discussed how standard of living, real GDP per capita, and productivity are linked. The link was simple. The higher the productivity, the higher the real GDP, and the higher the standard of living. In this part, we will discuss the government policies that raise productivity and living standards. What are the policies that the government can implement in a country to improve the standard of living? These are tried and tested policies that the government has been using for many years now throughout the world in different countries. The main countries that have really progressed using these policies are the Western countries like United States, European countries, and Australia and Japan. Recently, China is also focusing on these policies. So the idea is work on these policies, and these policies are certainly linked to higher real GDP per capita and productivity and standard of livings. So the first policy is encourage saving and investment. Savings are how much you save, how much you don't spend. So there is consumption and then there is saving. If you have an income of $1,000 and if you spend 800 out of those $1,000, then you will have 200 savings. The more savings you have, the more you will have to invest. And the more you invest, it will increase the real GDP of a country and ultimately the living standards. That's the first policy. The second policy is encourage investment from abroad. Especially for developing countries, they need investment from other countries, from developed nations. And similarly, even for developed nations, they need investment from other countries. So for example, America would need investment from Europe or from China or from other countries. That way, if there is more investment from abroad, the productivity of that country, the real GDP of that country is bound to increase. Third point is encourage education and training. The more educated people are, the more trained people are, the more productive they will be. And the more productive they are, the more they will contribute to real GDP per capita and standard of living. Fourth policy is establish secure property rights and maintain political stability. Here we have two things: secure property rights and political stability. Property rights mean that the properties that people own, they are registered with the government and they are secure. The government will protect those people and those properties. So if there is a conflict on some property, then it can be easily solved, which means that people will be confident and will not be worried about their properties. People will think like, okay, I own that land and no one else will come and force his or her way on that land. So my property is safe. Political stability is that the government is not changing every other day. So if there is the democracy or whatever system the country is running, if it continues and then there is no martial law and stuff like that, then there will be political stability. Secure property rights and political stability are important government policies and are very important to increase standard of living. Moving on, the fifth policy is promotion of free trade. This means that there are not many restrictions on imports and exports. The more there are, the more the trade is free, the more it will lead to improved standard of living. We will see how that happens in the next part. Here we are just discussing what the government policies are. We will discuss each and every one of these policies in much more detail in the next parts. The sixth is control population growth. Controlling population growth is also very important. If the population growth is high, then it will have different implications for living standards. If the population growth rate is low, then it will have different implications again. But the general idea is that the higher the population growth, that is not a good thing. And if there is more production growth, population growth in developing countries, that is even bad. So we will discuss that as well in the next part. But this is also very important. Population growth is very important for living standards as well. The seventh one is promote research and development. If there is more research and development, that's good. It will lead to improved methods to solve past problems. And the more research and development is, it will lead to increased productivity and better living standards. So here we have discussed 7 different government policies that can improve productivity as well as living standards, and at the same time real GDP per person or per capita. We will discuss these 7 in much more detail in the next parts, but here we just discussed what these 7 different policies were. And the countries that have followed these policies have grown quite a lot. And we have the examples of Japan, United States, Australia, UK, other European countries as well. They have focused on these 7 government policies and they have developed. There might be other policies as well, but these are the most important ones. All right, I'll see you in the next part. Goodbye.